big food, after a while, will become responsible for providing customers to the healthcare industry. We won't put into Tasty Bite what we will not put into our mouth.
We keep telling people in the company over and over and over again, and make a darn mistake, because that's how you learn.
So you two are life partners and business partners.
Yes,
But I'm
guilty.
curious how you met. How did you first get to know each other?
Okay, so you can tell the story.
I can
I want to
tell
hear
the
his
story.
version.
Yeah.
I'll tell the story. I was in business school and I happened to be visiting Chennai, where she was in Max Müller and Goethe Institute trying to learn to teach German. She speaks German fluently. And I kind of knew that she was there, not quite. And I went to learn German. I didn't land up learning any German, but at least I got a girlfriend. One thing led to the other, and then we got married. I actually proposed midnight,
Okay.
New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I actually did all this, going down on my knees and all that good stuff. And we got married 2 years. We dated for a couple of years. We got married. This is our 36th year. That's my story, and I'm sticking with that.
Is that your story?
Yeah, the version works. Good one.
So it's
Pretty accurate.
Yeah. So it sounds like you had an attraction or something was drawing you to Meera before you really knew her. Is that correct?
Kind of. It's her German. I just wanted some help in my homework. That's really what it is. And I was new in town and she was from Madras.
Gotcha.
I didn't know Madras or Chennai as well as she did. So it was a good place to start.
Amazing. And so 2 years later, you're proposing.
2 years later, we got married and I was in Bombay.
Okay.
And she followed me to Bombay and did not teach German, but then she got into market research.
That's correct.
And she became, she was a phenomenon. She really grew from management trainee to the board of the company in 6 years. So she was a legend. Even though I'm saying it myself. In Bombay in the 90s, Meera was known as an extremely successful qualitative market researcher. That is true.
And what were you researching?
Oh, everything. Mostly consumer brands. And when we got tired of researching Colgate's next toothpaste launch, I sort of put my hand up at one point and I said, I'm sick of this and I'm not going to do this anymore, so can I do something else? And so for the first time, actually, this was in the 80s, and for the first time we actually did a lot of social research. And that was a time when UNICEF and the Ministry of Health in India and the Ministry of Family Planning in India at that time came together and said, why don't we look at the market research companies, that is the consumer research guys, and bring that rigor into looking at social issues. And one of the biggest issues in India has always been the population boom. And so I took a whole year off, worked with a large team. We traveled the length and breadth of India, studying and analyzing, went into the smallest villages to understand what are the issues, the socio-cultural issues that actually have a bearing on population or family planning, as it was referred to. And the findings were fairly explosive and quite interesting. And so after that, the bug bit me, and I loved the idea of social research. So I was doing a lot of social research in between for people like UNICEF and everybody else. Yeah.
And the government of India too.
The government of India, a heck of a lot of it. So I've researched things like child immunization, women's rights, family
Cleaning
planning,
Ganges.
cleaning the Ganges. This was just after Mrs. Gandhi was shot. And so when Rajiv Gandhi was the prime minister, at that point he realized that the Ganges river was very dirty and he wanted to have it cleaned. And he realized it's an explosive, potentially religiously explosive issue. And so he actually called us in, and I guess who got to do that project? I did. And so I went to Banaras, to Varanasi, and actually interviewed a bunch of people to understand, what if we clean the Ganges? What do you think? Of course, everyone said, yeah, go ahead, clean it, but I'm not going to be quoted on this. So things like that. Also did a large study for UNICEF and the Ministry on leprosy control. So some crazy stuff. In between, of course, Unilever's next launch and P&G's, market entry strategy and all that. So that was the money-making part, and then this was the fun part. So, yeah,
Wow.
that too. Yeah.
You were busy.
Very busy.
And how did you wind your way to Tasty Bites from there? How did you get interested into that industry and doing something there?
Well, actually, it started with him. It's his fault, but I'll let him tell that. So, but after my years in research, I actually started my own research company in India for a while, and that's when he joined. He was at Unilever, and he quit Unilever and joined Pepsi, and I'll let him tell that story.
Right. So in the late 80s, so I joined Pepsi, and some of us were early startup members of Pepsi's operations in India. And I moved from Bombay to Delhi, and so she moved from Bombay to Delhi, and she set up Quantum, which is today India's largest qualitative research firm. So I was in Pepsi, and then Pepsi moved us a couple of years later to New York, and I was running the international operations for Pepsi in India, and then moved to Pepsi World Trade in New York. We were there for a couple of years, and then she followed me to New York, and now saying, now what? I mean, I'm moving from Madras to Bombay, Bombay to Delhi, Delhi to New York, now what are we going to do? So 2 years later, we set up a consulting firm and Tasty Bite on the same day. Tasty Bite is a project that was born within Pepsi. Okay. It was one of the export projects that Pepsi had an opportunity to look at from India. Internationally, Pepsi rejected it, so in a sense, we just picked it up. Often, many friends of mine in Pepsi say that is a gift to me, and I'm happy to take that gift. So we started that company with $5,000 on our dining table. That was in 1994. And coincidentally, at the time, a couple of years later, the company in India, which is a manufacturing company called Tasty Bite, which got bought by Unilever. And we then acquired that company, the back-end company, from Unilever, which is a public company. So we acquired Tasty Bite in 1998 from Unilever, and then we just got lucky. From 94 to last year, 24 years, we just plugged away. We just got lucky, and we built the business, and it grew every year for 24 years. It's in the U.S., it's in England, Australia, New Zealand, Japan, India. Like I said, we just got lucky.
I'm sure there's more than just luck.
There's a lot of luck. There's a lot of luck and a lot of goodwill. I often
Goodwill,
say,
actually. Yes.
entrepreneurship is not an entitlement; it's a responsibility. And we've always been. That's what really. I mean, Tasty Bite is just more than a company for us. It's our life. The nice thing is we don't have children. We love children as long as they belong to somebody else. We do love children. And so this gives us a lot of time to hang out and do stuff.
Yeah.
And so it gave us an opportunity to live out our life, because just as an aside, and this is consistent with our belief system, big food after a while will become responsible for providing customers to the healthcare industry. And that is the sad truth. So when we set up the company, we set it up with the purpose to say we want to build a socially responsible company that will provide consumer delight. And so that became the purpose. So we take an oath. Everybody takes an oath in the company every day when they come into the factory. We won't put into Tasty Bite what we will not put into our mouth. So no additive, no preservative, no color, no flavor, no GMO. If you cannot pronounce it, if it belongs to a chemistry textbook, it probably doesn't belong in our pack. That's what took us. So that journey just continued and continues till now. We just sold the business last year to Mars, which turns out to be Mars Food, turns out to be another incredible company in terms of their belief in sustainability, which we deeply believe in. So we just landed the baby safe, and 2 weeks ago we relocated to Singapore. There's a story there which I must say.
Okay.
She followed me from from Madras to Bombay, Bombay to Delhi, Delhi to New York. I said, wait, stop following me. I mean, it's time for me to do the reverse. So I'll follow you. Where do you want to go? She said, we're going to Singapore, baby. I said, yep.
Amazing. Yeah. So co-founder dynamics are often tricky enough for most companies, and then add on top of that being in a relationship with your co-founder. I'm curious how you two have navigated it over time, and if it's ever been hard or difficult. What's that experience been like for you two?
It hasn't been difficult in any way. I think if I can live with him, I can work with him. It's been easy.
Good mantra.
Yeah. It's easy.
Great.
In fact, at one point, I remember there was this young guy who joined the company.
Story today, yeah.
And he had no idea we were married, I guess. I don't know. So about a month later, he asks a colleague, so what's with cabin number 1 and cabin number 4? What's going on there? or 3 or whatever. And so she said, they're married, you idiot. Oh, because every evening they go home together. They leave together.
I often see them leave together.
How scandalous.
It is true, because I can tell, even today, many people who join the company don't know we're married. But I can tell 5 months, 6 months after they've been in the company, I can look at their eyes and say, they've just discovered something. I can see that they have I know something look.
Yeah. But I guess we've sort of had our own strengths, and we've done our own thing in the company. So each of us brings a different strength, and so there we've had our own silos to manage, and we've had a lot of stuff to do on our own. So it's been like any two co-workers in a company. It's been easy that way.
Have you learned anything about each other by working together that you may not have learned otherwise?
Oh God, yeah. I mean, I didn't know this about him, but he's clerical to the nth degree. I didn't know this before. He loves clerical stuff.
Yeah.
This I didn't know.
I'm a clerk.
He's like born cleric.
Paperwork, spreadsheet, little cells.
Oh, yeah.
I love cleric.
Oh yeah.
I can see that. I can see that.
She can do the laundry, but I can do the cleric.
Yeah. I hate the stuff. I don't like it. I'm more of the big picture, the big concept. After that, I'm saying, okay, now I'm bored. I'm leaving. So, and that's not what I'm going to do. So it's good. We sort of complement each other.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We
I like to dream
argue.
the dream.
Yeah.
And he likes to make it happen. So.
We argue intensely. We have 3 other members of what we call the executive committee. These are high octane, high IQ, incredible people. I mean, this is as educated as you can possibly get, and smart, really smarter than either of us can ever be. They're also younger. So we've got a couple of MITs and 1 Harvard and 1, all of that, that kind of stuff. So we argue intensely. And in that argument, there is no, there are 2 presidents, 1 CFO, and she runs all product development and global marketing. And I just hang out, like I said, and tell bad jokes. So in this dynamic, we argue. And the whole company watches us argue intensely. It is like, short of calling each other names, each one is like, who knows more theory than the other? And there's intense argument. But that's part of the energy that gets us going. The values are rock solid of the 5, and the whole company's values come together like that. So that kind of trumps, sorry, wrong word, but that beats everything else. Oops.
But I think I heard a few questions during the last day and a half about culture being a difficult thing in companies, and how does one manage culture, or how do you build a culture, and then how do you propagate it and nurture it and make sure it's disseminated to everybody who joins in. I think to do that, it's probably important that you believe in it yourself, heart and soul, and then you walk the talk every day in everything that you do. So when Ashok said things like, you will not put into Tasty Bite what you will not put into your mouth, that's something that both of us believe in, and we're both a little manic about how we eat and what we eat, and we both believe you are what you eat, so that's important. And so if we keep saying that again and again to everybody around us, and we never flinch, and sometimes it's meant you've said no to some business, sometimes it's meant that you've had to make some really difficult decisions, and there was a time when we had some PE investors. That was not a fun phase in the business, and we had to, and the guy would say, I like margins, and I would say, and I don't like additives. But you have to take that stand. And so that was important, that we both said the same thing over and over and over again, and that built the culture. So every day in every way that everybody came to work saying, whether I'm in sales and I'm making the pitch, or whether I'm in marketing and I'm telling the story, the brand story, or whether I'm in R&D and I'm creating the product, or whether I'm the guy who buys the ingredient, I'm going to buy the soy sauce and say, what was the soy sauce's grandfather like? Was there anything there that was chemical? No? Great. Otherwise, I'm not buying it. So right down to that degree, we are very persnickety about that. So
we often we've heard it saying culture trumps strategy.
Bad word.
Bad word, sorry. Culture beats strategy. We say values beat culture. If you can get the values right, culture is a piece of cake. And once then you get the culture, strategy is just doesn't even matter. And the ability to just stay on that little page and put 1,000 people, there are more than 1,000 employees today. We started off with 3 employees and $5,000 in the bank. 24 years ago, I had a little over 1,000 people in 5-6 countries. But to be able to put that whole value into one page and say, this is it, and to create an environment that we call knowledge-driven, energetic, and fun, we say, can we make that knowledge-driven, energetic, and fun? Can we make it empowered enough? In fact, that's an interesting term. We use the term empowerment, not the right for people to make decisions. We say empowerment is not the right for you to make a decision. Empowerment in the company is the right for you to make the wrong decision. If you make the right decision, you don't have to be empowered. You're smart enough, of course, you're making the right
And we keep saying, go ahead, make a mistake. There's nothing wrong with that. Just go make a darn mistake, because that's how you learn. Don't make the same mistake twice. Find a new one to make. That's a different issue. But just make it. And that's really something that we keep telling people in the company over and over and over again. And we mean it. And they can see that we mean it. And, go ahead, make a mistake. Stick your neck out. I'm right behind you. What the hell? What's the worst that'll happen? The line will bomb. You'll put it away, and then you launch a new line next year. That's what companies do.
Our graveyard is full. Somebody spoke today about mistakes. I can tell you, we are experts in mistakes. We make more mistakes than you guys can even think about. And honestly, today we have 100 SKUs maybe, give or take. And we may have 100 SKUs that are working in the market. We probably have 200 SKUs that are in our graveyard. We fail every other year, if not more frequently. We launch, we fail. We launch, we fail. And we say, what? We researched it. It tastes so good. Consumers love it. Damn thing didn't sell. Put it out, yank it, fail forward and keep moving. So there's a certain high octane velocity toward accepting failure. And that's a difficult piece to instill in an organization. It comes out of practice. So we fail so often that we're experts. So it's easy for us to fail. And every once in a while we stumble and get lucky, and that's good enough.